Howdy, kids. Me, Bob Harris, senior editor, FootballDiehards.com. It's week 13, time for the Saturday injury preview, update, overview. The thing we like to do every week to get you up to speed, to set the table, to get the names on your radar that need to be there as you're setting your lineups, guys with injury issues or other situations that may be impactful as you set your lineups. So, as always, I'll go through these things in chronological order so you can understand your fallbacks. Of course, no Thursday game this week, but we do have an additional Monday game and a Tuesday game. Not as many COVID issues as last week, but some of the ongoing lingering issues from last week are still there, especially with the Steelers and Ravens. So I'll get to those as we work through this. And as always, things will change, right? I'm doing this a little before noon or right about noon on Saturday Eastern time. So if I mention a player, you want to come back and check the late breaking update section from Saturday to see if any developments have changed. Better still, go to the staff rankings, the FSP staff cheat sheet, and in list format, you can find your player, and there'll be a link to all the latest information on that player, and his ranking will reflect what the latest circumstances is. Obviously, if they're down low or at the bottom, they're probably not going to want to play him. So here we go. I'll dive in. Get your Panthers and Buccaneers out of your lineup. They are on bye this week, the final bye of the season. So Christian McCaffrey should return next week for the Panthers. So that's something to look forward to if you've been holding on to him all year. Early afternoon window, we'll start with the Miami Dolphins hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. Tua Tagovailoa is listed as questionable. Seems more likely to play this week. He did not play last week. Ryan Fitzpatrick filled in. This is going to be a Sunday decision. They probably already know. They're just not saying. Had Armando Salguero was on with my co-hosts on Sirius, Michael Fabiano and Mike Dempsey Friday night, and he basically said nobody seems to know. Reporters aren't seeing much practice, so they're not seeing Tua throw much. But the feeling there among the local observers is Tua will return. Either way, it's a good matchup. Maybe not a good matchup for Devontae Parker against William Jackson, but just in general, the Bengals are not good, especially against the run. So the running back is important. And with that, Salvon Ahmed is doubtful. Don't expect him to play. DeAndre Washington got a little run last week. He is doubtful with a hamstring. He will not play. Matt Breida, one of the few players this week who went on COVID-19 list, will not play. So who does that leave? Patrick Laird is the only healthy running back on the roster. That's liable to change today. Myles Gaskin has been practicing the last 2 weeks. Seems almost certain to be elevated from IR to play this week, and expect him to get a full workload if he is. That news will be available 4 p.m. Eastern time or a little after 4 p.m. if not earlier. So check the the late breaking update section for more on Gaskin. Malcolm Perry, also the wide receiver, list is questionable with a chest issue there. Other side of the ball, Auden Tate, the wide receiver, is been placed on IR. And honestly, with Brandon Allen, a quarterback there for Cincinnati, it's tough enough playing guys like Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins and A.J. Green for sure. So keep your expectations a little lower on that side of the ball. Oakland. Las Vegas Raiders are traveling to New York to play the Jets in the early afternoon window. That hasn't been good for the Raiders. They don't really travel well to early games on the East Coast. But anyhow, they're doing it without Josh Jacobs. So Devontae Booker will be the next man up at running back. Jalen Richard may be in the mix. Could be Theo Riddick's off the COVID list. But Devontae Booker has fared really well in times when he's gotten significant run. We saw it against Denver. Had a good, substantial number of carries. Ended up with 2 touchdowns. I think he's been averaging over 5 yards a carry. So it's not a horrible matchup for him. Everyone else is off the injury report. Nelson Aguilar on that side of the ball. And also for the Jets, everyone's off the injury report. So they got that going for them. Not much else. The Chicago Bears hosting the Detroit Lions. Allen Robinson added the injury report on Friday along with Darnell Mooney, both starting wide receivers, as questionable with knee issues. Matt Nagy downplayed it, said they were basically precautionary, not to worry. And so at least it's an early afternoon Sunday kickoff, so we'll have plenty of options to pivot to. My expectation is they'll play. Nick Foles is listed as questionable, will not play. Mitchell Trubisky will start again. It's a great matchup for Trubisky, for Allen Robinson, for Mooney if they play. Anthony Miller, maybe a little less so. Justin Coleman's a tough matchup. But, and for David Montgomery as well. Other side of the ball, Matthew Stafford listed as questionable with a thumb injury. He hasn't missed a snap since he hurt it in Week 10. I don't expect him to miss this game, but it's a tough matchup. Deandre Swift is Kenny Galladay's ruled out again, so hip issues, having a hard time getting over that. Obviously, a disappointing season for him. Deandre Swift, coming off the concussion, was cleared out of the concussion protocol Thursday, then got an illness. Seems like it's not COVID-related because they have not put him on the COVID list. Interim coach Darrell Bevell, who replaced Matt Patricia, was fired last week, in case you missed that. Darrell Bevell said he was optimistic about DeAndre Swift being available, but if he does play, he'll play a limited role. So And it's a tough matchup as well. So I don't know if you want to force him into lineups, but you might not have a choice because it's late in the season. There's attrition and all of those things. So it seems like he'll be available. That would be something to watch in the pregame 90 minutes leading up to kickoff. The New Orleans Saints are traveling to Atlanta to face the Falcons. Todd Gurley, Julio Jones, both listed as questionable, knee and hamstring respectively. It's a tough matchup for Gurley, especially. Julio Jones fared pretty well against Marshawn Lattimore over the course of his career. Big article up on that on the late breaking update section. Check it out. But anyhow, they'll both be game time decisions. Julio didn't really practice much this week, so wouldn't get too excited. Everyone else for the Falcons came off the injury report. Calvin Ridley, Younghoe Koo, Hayden Hurst, all were limited a little bit in practice, but were removed from the report late in the week. So good news there. On the other side of the ball, Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas opened the week limited, but they're off the injury report on Friday. Marquez Callaway and Deontay Harris. Callaway's out. Harris is questionable. Didn't practice this week. Unlikely to play. So they'll probably have to dig a little deeper for a return man. May see some Austin Carr there. For the Cleveland Browns, traveling to Tennessee to take on the Titans in a game of the superstar running backs. We've got, Jonnu Smith is ruled out for the Titans, so Anthony Ferkser and maybe Jeff Swaim, who got a lot of run last week, will be the primary guys there, and a pretty good matchup for the tight ends. And on the other side of the ball, Kadero Hodge and Taywan Taylor ruled out on Friday. Don't know anyone digging that deep into the Browns receiving core as it was. This is all about Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Derrick Henry this game. But don't dismiss. And AJ Brown was added to the injury report on Wednesday with a hip issue instead of the usual knee issue. Same result though. He was off the injury report on Friday. So good to go there. Houston hosting Indianapolis. David Johnson seems likely to come off IR. He is still there as I speak. Check back. If they elevate him, it has to be by 4 p.m. Eastern. If they do, I would expect him to play. He's missed 3 games with had a concussion. Seemed to be pretty severe, obviously, since they put him on IR. Duke Johnson hasn't been that impressive. CJ Prosise ruled out of this game with a non-COVID illness. Apparently hospitalized, though, so seems like it's fairly serious. And Will Fuller will not play the rest of the season. Will Fuller's done. Suspended for performance-enhancing drugs. So was his teammate Bradley Roby. So Fuller's a free agent. Deshaun Watson wants him re-signed. This obviously complicates it. And for now, the team was playing quite well. Deshaun Watson playing quite well. Now he'll do it with Brandon Cooks as his leading weapon downfield, who has been very heavily targeted, been a big factor as is. They'll need Kiki Cutie to step up. Isaiah Coulter moves into the number 3 spot, it seems. But watch Jordan Akins, the tight end, the local observers there that we've talked to, including John McClain from the Houston Chronicle. I think we'll see a lot of Aiken in the slot, or working in the slot. So that's worth noting. Minnesota Vikings hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars. Great matchup for the Vikings. Adam Thielen's back off COVID reserve. Dalvin Cook off the injury report after the ankle issue. Limited a little bit in practice this week. Took great umbrage at people who questioned his durability and asked him if he was wearing down and suggested, hey, you don't ask Derrick Henry that. Well, no, we don't, because Derrick Henry tends to keep playing. But anyhow, Dalvin Cook available in a great matchup for all the Vikings. The only player not available will be Irv Smith Jr., the tight end, who has been ruled out with ongoing back and groin issues. On the other side of the ball, DJ Chark off the injury report. Mike Glennon will get another start. Oh, and it looks like so David Johnson has been activated off IR, so that one's out of the way. I'll have an article up on that in the late breaking news section as well as soon as I'm done recording this video. The Sunday late afternoon window, Eagles at the Packers. As I mentioned, Jordan Howard was elevated off IR. Zach Ertz is back Jordan Howard was activated from the practice squad. Zach Ertz is off IR, has been practicing this week. Doug Peterson said they aren't going to try and force him into the fray there, so don't be surprised if he plays a limited role. Dallas Goedert's been doing quite well at that position, even with Carson Wentz struggling. On the other side of the ball, Tyler Ervin is questionable with a rib issue. Return man, gadget player, no big deal there. Daniel Jones listed as doubtful. Almost certainly all but ruled out. Right, Colt McCoy is going to start against the Seahawks. On the other side of the ball, Carlos Hyde listed as questionable with a toe injury. We're going to see more Chris Carson either way, but he's off the injury report. Pete Carroll talked about it and said, look, we need to get him more involved. He had like 8 carries last week. Had an amazing touchdown run if you missed it. Expect him to be busier today. Travis Homer also out in that game, so there's that as well. So, and as for McCoy, look, Seattle's defense has been pretty generous. They haven't been that generous, especially the last few weeks, so I wouldn't get my hopes up for the Giants' passing attack, but maybe Wayne Gallman, sure. For the Rams at the Cardinals, Larry Fitzgerald's still on the COVID-19 list. Seems unlikely to be cleared in time to play. So Andy Isabella got a little more run, wasn't super productive. Kyler Murray's shoulder has been an issue, obviously, since he hurt it against Seattle a couple weeks ago. Hasn't been running as much, hasn't been throwing the ball as deep, but he's off the injury report, so maybe we get a little better. It's a tough matchup. I know a lot of interest in Jalen Ramsey, shadowing DeAndre Hopkins. We don't know that that's how it's going to play out. It doesn't matter. They have 3 really good cornerbacks there. It's a great defense in general. So watch that. And by the way, Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods have lit up the Cardinals the last few times these teams have played. So maybe Jared Goff can rebound. Patriots are at the Chargers. Kalen Balaj listed as questionable for the Chargers. Worked on a limited basis all week. Doesn't matter. Austin Eckler's back, and as we saw last week in his first game back, played a dominant role, took all the carries. Joe Reed, the wide receiver, is listed as questionable with rib injury. He's pretty far down the depth chart. On the other side of the ball, Cam Newton is questionable with an abdominal issue. He downplayed it. My guess is he'll play. Jarrett Stidham and standing by, Brian Hoyer maybe. I mean, they haven't said who it would be. My guess is it would be Stidham, but nothing you want to force into your fantasy lineups. Ryan Izzo and Nick Folk also questionable in that game. They've been playing through their respective hamstring, hand, and back issues for a number of weeks, so not a big deal there, I don't think, and not that anyone's really forcing some of them into the lineups. Nick Folk maybe, but he's a kicker. You can find others. Sunday night game, Broncos at Chiefs. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been missed the last 2 days of practice, is listed as questionable. He has a stomach virus. It's not COVID, but it's a concern, right? So Andy Reid says he's optimistic, expects him to play, expects him to be ready. We'll have to see. Le'Veon Bell, Daryl Williams, Darwin Thompson available in case he can't go. We'll see. On the other side of the ball, Phillip Lindsay, Jerry Jeudy, both questionable knee and ankle injuries. Vic Fangio expressed optimism that they'd be available, but he did say they might not be at full strength and might not be ready for full workload. So don't know how much you want to force that into lineups either. Monday night, we got 2 Monday games. Monday afternoon, Monday night. We have the Bills at 49ers and the Washington football team at the Steelers. Then the official injury reports aren't out, but Terry McLaurin for Washington has been limited with an ankle injury. I would expect him to play. He's been playing through that issue in recent weeks. For the Steelers, James Conner's still on the COVID reserve list, so not sure he's going to be cleared in time to play for this one, so that's something to watch. It'd be Benny Snell. Anthony McFarland Jr. would continue to fill in as need be. For the 49ers, it looks pretty good. Deebo Samuel practiced fully on Friday, and as Kyle Shanahan said he would, he had a big game last week. Brandon Ayuk off the COVID list, has been practicing. Seems like he'll be available too. Tevin Coleman, although Raheem Mostert's good to go. Coleman is not even on the injury report this week, so they seem to have their full array of skilled players on offense, not named George Kittle or Jimmy Garoppolo, of course. Nick Mullins will continue to start. Kittle says he's going to be back before the end of the season. We'll see. They're playing in Arizona their last 2 games, in case you missed that. Rules in Santa Clara, basically a shutdown there. So they've moved their operations to Arizona and will play in Glendale where the Cardinals play. So there are no schedule conflicts there. So they've got that figured out. The Tuesday game, the Cowboys at the Ravens, still have issues with COVID. So Lamar Jackson has not been cleared. Mark Ingram has not yet been officially cleared. Mark Andrews has not yet been officially cleared. J.K. Dobbins has been. Robert Griffin III is on IR, so Trace McSorley would start if Jackson is not able to go. The feeling is that these guys, if they're going to be elevated, will be on Sunday, and so they can get in a little practice time. That'll be something you'll need to watch for the late-breaking updates. Since it is a Tuesday game, maybe you have some other options that you can fiddle with 2 Monday games and the late Sunday games, and that gives you a wide range of options if you want to hold out. It's a great matchup, obviously, for Lamar Jackson if you wanted to play that and wait around to see. The reporting is he's been virtually connected and meeting with the team, and so apparently he's not really, having horrible symptoms or anything. So we'll watch for that, and you'll want to watch for that. Check the website again. Things will change, so check the late-breaking updates section. If any of the players I mentioned, search for their team, or just go to the FSP staff rankings, where you'll find each individual player, and you'll find a link to the latest information on that player. Also, tons of other great content there on the website right now. So if you're watching this, you probably know it all, but tons of news and updates coming in on a regular basis. We have tons of video content. Jen Ryan's prop bet video, Kyle Dvorak and Jason Brady doing some DFS content early in the week. John Laub will do some Saturday night, so check for that. I'll do an Ask Me Anything later Saturday afternoon. And then the pregame video Sunday morning with Jason Brady and Emil Kadlik. They'll discuss DFS ownership numbers and help you get ready for that. I'll be on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio Sunday for the pregame show with Jeff Manns. If you're listening this Saturday, Saturday night, Mike Dempsey and I will do the Football Diehards show, 3 hours on SiriusXM NFL and Fantasy Sports Radio. So check that out. Check us out all week on SiriusXM Fantasy, whether it's the Fantasy Dirt Show with me and Michael Fabiano or the Football Diehards show with me and Mike Dempsey. There's 6 days a week of it. It's hard to miss. So there you have it. FootballDiehards.com. We have you covered. It's a little bit slower pace this week, which is nice. So hopefully we can get all our lineups set and all our players will play. Good luck this week, everybody.